so that now we can move and learn from these beautiful panelists from all over the world. I would love to invite Miriam Missel. She is a medical doctor trained in family practice with additional qualification in lifestyle medicine. She has followed a vegetarian diet since her teenage years, inspired by care for the animals and for the planet. In the last 10 years, she has come to understand the many benefits of health associated with the consumption of whole food, plant based diet. So, thank you, Miriam, Michelle, for being here with us. We would love to know more about you. I would like to first bring in everybody and then we will hear all your stories.
Yes, okay. So thank you very much for inviting me. And this is a really wonderful event.
So I'd like to invite Sarah El Eburi. Is an African American attorney and social media manager who helps to create the vegan Muslim community and the Vegetarian Vegan Society of Egypt, which helps guide thousands of members worldwide live a healthier plant-based lifestyle. Um, Hi, Sarah. Good to have you.
Hello, thank you so much
Hello.
for having me.
Thank you, Sarah. It's amazing to see you. So, welcome. Now we have Julia Ananda Breyer. She is a wellness facilitator, a meditator, and mindfulness yoga therapy, energy healing, and sacred ceremony. She's been perfecting her whole food, plant based lifestyle for 10 years with the goal of maximizing her own health and vitality. She is also an instructor and practitioner of the One Light Healing, touch energy healing modality. That's something new. I would love to know more about it. And you can find out more about her in freetobefree.com. And as Pari has already introduced, Edgar Began. He's a meditator who's been in this journey for the past 13 years. Adopting a plant-based diet accelerated his meditation and spiritual journey. And for that, he has co-founded Conscious K, a growing community of people practicing and learning conscious holistic living in Africa. Hello, Edgar. So beautiful. We have all the amazing people on the floor. So thank you all for being here with us and sharing yourself and taking out this time to share your wisdom. It all matters a lot. It counts a lot. So so what we can do is we would love to hear about your journey in the next 7-8 minutes about how you turned plant based and your journey into spirituality and the and why you turned plant based. Why did you turn vegetarian? And then we will have some question answers around it. So we can start with Miriam because she's the first on my screen. So let's just start with Miriam. Hi, Miriam. So please share about
Hello.
yourself and your journey. Yeah.
My journey. So, when I became vegetarian, I was just thinking back what year it was, and it was 1973. So it was way, way, way before the internet. There were no people in my environment who were vegetarian as such. And at that time, I had started to read about yoga. I knew there's some people who don't eat meat. And then I came upon this book, A Diet for a Small Planet, which was written in the late 60s or early 70s. And it discussed the problem of world hunger and resources and so on. And that the meat production uses a lot of land that could be used to grow plant food and supply, nutritious food to people who lack that food. So that was that kind of entered my mind, and then it also showed that, at the time there was a theory of combining proteins and so on, incomplete proteins and so on, which now we realize it's not really necessary to be so fussy, but it gave me the confidence that you could actually nourish yourself. And then I think the real moment came when I was, for some reason, I was standing outside of a butcher shop. I found myself, and I looked at all these things hanging there. And then also I met someone of my own age who was vegetarian, and finally all these things came together, and I thought, okay, I don't need this meat. I'm not going to eat it anymore. And so at that time I was 14 years old, so it's a long time ago now. But I remained vegetarian, and in spite of, the family was worried, will she grow, and will she be okay, and will she survive if she so in spite of that, I continued, and there was not a lot of resources, particularly for vegetarians at that time there. But I survived, and I didn't have the um, there didn't seem to be anyone saying, oh, vegetarian is much more healthy, at that time. And even through my medical training, I was kind of holding on to the vegetarian in spite of, um, I was kind of, I think, what I would call a closet vegetarian, because I didn't make a big deal about it. It was just that was the way that I ate. I didn't try to change anybody. I felt that this is my own inner wish to be like that. I didn't promote it with the patients. We were interested in getting people to stop smoking, stop drinking, and so on. But then in the last, uh, 10, 15 years with the internet, I've come across, I started to come across information and research about the health benefits of whole food plant-based diet. And there were certain pioneering doctors who really did some excellent work. Dean Ornish, who did excellent work with cardiology, Dr. Esselstein, who also did excellent work with cardiology, and then the research of T. Colin Campbell and his book, The China Study, and so on. And because now there's so much more in the internet, it was a few short steps to that to find the work of people like Dr. Joel Furman in the United States, and the American College of Lifestyle Medicine, which really is promoting now, preferring a whole food plant-based diet for the health benefits. And I would say in the last 5 years, now we're really starting to know it's not even just cardiology, blood pressure, and these things. It's also autoimmune diseases. It's also cancer. It's also Alzheimer's. Um, so now this has become the basis of my medical practice, and has given me a great deal of confidence. At the same time, I try to, through the internet also, the possibility to link up with other doctors, who are practicing in this way, so that I don't have to be in the vegan closet anymore. Uh, and but there are challenges, there are challenges of how to communicate with other people in the profession so that they don't react negatively to this message. So that's where I am right now. In parallel journey, also, there's been a very long-term parallel journey through meditation and meditation practice for many years, mainly in the Buddhist tradition, which has brought me to the Himalayas. So not to the pyramid, but to the actual Himalayas. So, yes.
I'm sure you'll come to the pyramids also now.
Yeah, why not? Yeah.
Yes. So amazing, Miriam. It's such a beautiful journey. And now it's so great to hear from you that now the mainstream doctors are acknowledging the benefits of being vegetarian and turning vegan. And it's now really building up. The movement is really picking up, where all the mainstream doctors are also understanding the importance of turning vegetarian. And
Some
I
of
feel
them.
this is
Some of them, yeah. Not all
yeah,
of them, yeah.
it's a movement. Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
beginning. And but I guess these studies will now reflect to everybody that they'll have to accept it as a fact that eventually that these facts are speaking louder than anything. And now we have to recommend a vegetarian diet if, as you're saying, these problems are coming forward. So that's a great start, and obviously we have a long way to go, but we are surely on the right path. So thank you, Miriam. So hi, Sarah. Would love to know your journey, and obviously also know your beautiful friend on the screen with you.
Oh, yeah. So thanks again. My name is Sarah, and this is Yogi. And I have to tell
Oh,
you, he never sits on my lap. So this is a really special moment because he wants to be a part of this awesome gathering with everybody.
wow.
Um, I am in America right now. My parents are from Egypt, so that is my connection to pyramid spirituality. And I grew up in, Oregon on the West Coast of the United States. And I was always, standard American diet, eating meat and everything else. Um, my parents raised our family Muslim. So with that, I never had pork in my life. And then as I grew older, I developed dairy intolerance. And so, I was basically eating everything else. And then when I was studying for the bar exam, I was, eating a lot of junk food and, just very stressed out and, really excited to be an attorney, but I wasn't taking care of my body. And I actually failed the bar exam the first couple of times because I was not in a good state. And my plant-based journey began when I really started taking more care of myself on a cellular level and a spiritual level. And I did this detox program that included basically Indian food. It removed all of the major inflammatory ingredients, and so like no gluten, no soy, just all vegetables. And I would eat that with rice or quinoa. And I had this meal delivery every day, and I was studying really well. I was exercising, I was meditating, and I just felt really good. And then I took the exam and I passed. And so, at that time, I wasn't even thinking about like, um, you know, being vegan at all until, I went out to kind of celebrate that I passed, and I had a big dinner with all my friends, and we were eating food with meat. And I took a bite of something and it was awful. Like I hadn't eaten meat in about 2 months. And I was like, I had to spit it out. And I was like, okay, I'm totally vegan now. I'm never going back. But now what? And I'm just about on the 10-year anniversary of that event. And back then, it was really hard to find plant-based alternatives. And it was not a trendy thing like it is now with all the different products available. And every store has a vegan option. Every restaurant has a vegan menu. So I had to teach myself, and I actually took classes on, how to be plant-based, how to teach myself how to cook so that I could still eat the foods that I love to eat. And, being Egyptian, I'd go back to Egypt pretty often to visit my family. And, I still hear it. Like, you can't be vegan in Egypt. How is that going to work? And I love that I have to do it. This is like how I am now. I'm not going back. So, when I got to Egypt, I was trying to look for other people like me. And there wasn't many at all. There may be some vegetarians, but I wanted to gather everybody together so that we could share meals and, share recipes. And so we started a Facebook group, the Vegetarian/Vegan Society of Egypt. And basically, I wanted it to be like a very welcoming group. Anybody can join, even people who are non-veg, just to come and try it out, learn about it. It's an educational, safe space for everybody. And, what I learned from that is a lot of food in Egypt is already vegan. We have falafel, hummus, tabbouleh, baba ganoush, breads, and, a lot of the Middle Eastern cuisine is already there. It's like, just keep eating the way you already eat. And, oh yeah, okay, yeah, I think we can do it now, and even just being around my family and having so many, like, I don't say arguments, but they were really worried because, I'm with all my aunties and they're like, what do I feed you? You have to go visit everybody and they want to, stuff you till you're about to explode full of food. And, there was an auntie hotline and they were like, oh, what did she eat at your house? Oh, I made this and she liked that. And what did she eat at your house? And they're all like talking to each other on conference calls and sharing recipes with each other. It was really sweet. And I'm so lucky to have just a loving family over there. And, I lived in Egypt for almost 2 years and I did a lot of work with the yoga community and, being around um, other people who practice meditation, but they were still eating meat sometimes. And so I was the one there, making food for everyone. I'm like, don't eat that. Like, let me be the chef and I will feed everyone. It's just so I think it will elevate your experiences. And so it was amazing because I was teaching them about food. They were teaching me about meditation. And it was an amazing exchange that I'll never forget. And, we were able to have, we celebrated Ramadan while we were there. And so we would have vegan iftar dish parties and potlucks and having, classes and workshops teaching people how to live a plant-based diet. And now, we have many, I think in my group, there's 30,000 members. There's other groups now throughout the Middle East. And that didn't exist 10 years ago. So I know a lot of people have started their own groups from mine. And it's just amazing to see that now, especially in a place like Egypt, you can ask for a Siyami menu, and Siyam means fasting. So there's many like Christians and Coptic people who are fasting from animal products throughout the year. There's many holidays that they practice Lent and refrain from animal products, but encouraging restaurants to offer those Siyami fasting menus all year long has been a lot of the work that I've done. So now you can go to a restaurant, you can go to a hotel, you can go to yoga centers now that are all over Egypt and find places to eat that are plant-based. Or you can just, go on the street and, the regular street food like kosheri and fool and, a falafel sandwich, those are already plant-based. So you're just reminding people that there are other options because, throughout the Middle East and especially in Egypt and my own family, we have a lot of health conditions, heart disease, cancer, diabetes is just skyrocketing over there. And people don't realize that the food that they're eating is killing themselves. And I think they don't make that connection. And even, my own father passed away when he was 63 of a heart condition. So for me, like, no one can tell me not to take care of my body. And I think, and he was a doctor and everybody loved him. And so everyone in my family kind of learned that, oh, if she's eating that way, I'm going to eat that way too. And, by the end of like the 2 years, and I never forced it upon them, everyone would have like their own meals, but at the end of the 2 years of me staying there, you find like the entire table now, every dish is vegan. And, everyone's eating the same like me. And it was like such an amazing moment to know that even after I left and I came back to America and I'm finding out now, oh, they're vegan now. And I was just like, well, why weren't you vegan when I was there? So, I love that, just being a good example and showing people that it's not that hard. It's actually cheaper because meat over there is very, very expensive. And it makes them feel better and they even lose weight and they're able to live a less stressful life and have a lot of more energy. So, I just sit back and wait. I'm very patient. And I just wait and see like, oh, by the way, remember, however many years ago you told me to be vegan. Well, now guess what, So, so I love that. And I'm so proud of everyone there. So that's just the beginning of my journey there.
Wow, what a profound journey. I guess you've done so much already to to ground your intentions. You've cooked for them. You've started a community in Egypt, and now finally it's grown and it's picked up, and you're inspiring so many in Egypt. And it's so important that you are a light in Egypt, Sarah. Because I remember we have the Giza pyramid. We have the biggest pyramid in the world, exist in the Giza, and the Egyptians were so aware about this That's why they built it. So one day I asked Patriji, I said, sir, we are making pyramids everywhere, but we already have such a big pyramid in Egypt. Why is it not empowering the whole planet? Why don't we feel that power in the Egypt land? And he said there's only one reason, because of the meat eating in
Mm-hmm.
that land.
Mm.
So to build light, to build energy, to build the cosmic force around a geographical area, we need to have the collective consciousness turn first into vegetarian, so that then they can move into more consciousness. So I
Mm-hmm.
guess that's a great work, Sarah. I feel I'm sure the pyramid is gonna feel very happy. The energies are gonna get more stabilized, and you never know, one day we have the whole planet washed with the energy of the pyramid Giza again.
Absolutely.
So
I want everyone to gather. We can all come to Egypt. And I was even invited for this panel. My friends, Madhu and Rem, they are going to be on the next panel after ours. So 1 hour after ours, everyone should stick around and listen to their beautiful music. But I met her in Egypt, and she had a pyramid set up in her own meditation center. So I would go to their place and meditate with them. And I would love for all of us to gather back in Egypt and be together.
that's amazing, because yeah, thanks to Madhu, we were also able to come to Egypt. I remember coming to Egypt. I came to Egypt once, and with Patriji we could meditate in the king's chamber of the Giza pyramid itself. So
Mm-hmm.
we would go, the whole pyramid of the Giza would be booked for us, and only all the meditators would go into the Giza pyramid, and we'll go to the king's chamber, and at 6 a.m. sharp, all the lights will be turned off, and it's just us and
Mm-hmm.
and Patriji playing his flute and
Yep.
taking us all into this intense meditation inside the king's chamber of the Giza pyramid. So we meditated there for 2 hours, and it was life changing. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so we're already using the pyramid for what was supposed to be, and I'm sure we need to do a lot of groundwork in Egypt so that we can bring up the light even further. Thanks, Sarah, for this amazing work that you're doing.
My pleasure.
All right. So hi, Julia.
Hello,
Hi. Great to hear you. Good to see you. So would love to
thank
know
you.
about you.
Thank you. I'm happy to share my story with my fellow panelists. My journey to a whole food, plant-based lifestyle was very powerfully sparked around 1999. I was a young wife eating a standard American diet, and I lived in North Carolina, and the major industries in that state were the pork industry and the tobacco industry. And there was this weather cycle that would affect the state of very, very high rains. And this happened every 5 or 6 years. It's called the El Nino cycle. And every 5 or 6 years, when these high rains came, the pork industry that held the sewage for the pork in these enormous dams that were only held together by earth would lose the integrity of the dams, and the dams would break. And all of the sewage that was held there would go down into the streams and kill all of the fish in the streams, and then from the streams into the ocean and create toxic blooms in the oceans of North Carolina. And I was absolutely horrified by the irresponsibility of this industry. And I said, I will never eat pork again. I cannot support this industry. And right at the same time, we were learning about a disease in Europe called mad cow disease. And that disease was created by using the extra parts of the cow and grinding it up and feeding it to the cows that they were raising for meat. And it created holes in the cow's brains, and it was termed mad cow disease. But then they would slaughter those cows, and the people in Europe were eating the sick cows, and the disease transferred to the people. And that's how they found it out. And the people got mad cow disease as well. And again, and that was right in the same time frame, I was so horrified by the irresponsibility of the actions of these industries. And I said, I'm never eating beef again. That was the start for me. It did take me many more years before I totally became vegan. But my journey had to do with learning that I was intolerant to being able to digest milk and gluten and eggs. And at that same time, which was about 10 years ago, I began my journey as a yogi and a meditator. And so at the same time, now I'm not eating pork, beef, lamb, eggs, or milk products. And I've started meditating and become a yogi. And I said, okay, I'm done. I'm completely vegan. But I didn't know how to do it at all. I had absolutely no information whatsoever. So I ate frozen vegetable burgers for an entire month. I had no idea what else to do. And I felt horrible. And so I said, okay, I'm committed to doing this. If I'm going to do this, I need an education. And Miriam, you mentioned T. Colin Campbell.
Yep.
Well, I signed up and graduated from the certificate program through Cornell University online, through the T. Colin Campbell Center for Plant-Based Nutrition. And that's how I learned how to nourish myself on a vegan diet. Subsequently, the more I meditated and the more I ate clean foods, the more my heart expanded, my compassion expanded. And the more I've learned about the scientific benefits to our health through a whole food plant-based diet and meditation, the benefits to the ecosystem of the earth by moving away from the damage that animal agriculture causes to our planet, and the benefits to the animal kingdom, our compassion to the animals. So my soul started talking to me. My soul started understanding all of these truths. And it led me to quit my 25-year career in corporate information technology to serve and share these messages. So now I teach meditation, I teach whole food plant-based living, and I teach yogic and shamanic spiritual practices. And for myself, I also include intense physical adventure out in nature. I live in an extraordinarily beautiful place in a small town high up in the Rocky Mountains in the Western United States. You may have heard of this area if you're familiar with the Winter Olympics. The Winter Olympics were held here in Park City, Utah in 2002. And I live here specifically to be engrossed in the awe of the beauty, of the majesty of the mountains and the forests that are here. And I want to tell everyone that I have not yet experienced the incredible meditations in pyramids, but I do regularly meditate with trees. And it was interesting that Ken yesterday mentioned that trees may have somewhat of a similar effect of magnifying the prana when you're meditating. I had an incredible experience this fall of going to the coast of California, and I'm spending 7 days in the ancient redwood forests. The redwood trees are the tallest trees on earth. And when they're considered the giants, they are taller than 350 feet, which is about a 30-story building. And they're older than 2,000 years old. And so I camped and hiked and meditated in these old growth ancient forests with the redwood trees, and it was an extraordinary life affirming experience. I'm incredibly happy to be here with all of the panelists to discuss the benefits of meditation and a whole food plant-based lifestyle. And I see these benefits in three parts. First, caring for our divinely embodied human systems. Second, caring for the animal kingdom, extending and offering that compassion to the animal kingdom. And then third, taking action in our responsibility as caretakers for this extraordinary planet on which we live. And thank you very much.
Wow, Julia, what a profound sharing. And I'm so jealous of you meditating in those redwood trees. They are so amazing. I would love to do it someday. And would love to hear your experience in detail about those beautiful trees that you chilled with. So amazing, Julia, and such an inspiring story of turning into vegetarian and taking it so seriously. You know, the action, as you said, even when you did not know how to move into that diet, you just took all the efforts that was necessary to move into it. And that's what counts, you know, that's what matters. The effort you've taken to turn into a vegetarian or a vegan, fully vegan now. So great. Thank you, Julia. So now, Edgar, it is beautiful to have you.
Beautiful to have
Love to
you.
hear your story.
Thank you. I'd love to hear your story. It's really wonderful to be here and to listen to all these amazing stories. And yeah, thanks, Pari, for inviting me. Eddie here from Kenya. And my journey to a plant-based diet actually began the same time my meditation journey began. So, I mean, the culture I grew up in, the family I grew up in ate meat. And unfortunately, very unfortunately, as a young child, one of the rites of passage for young boys was actually to, go slaughter goats or slaughter chickens. So when I was really young, one day there was a party going on, and my parents, gave me a chicken. Well, no, maybe not my parents, but some figure gave me a chicken, and they told me, being a man and firstborn, you have to kill this chicken, and I didn't have the guts to do it, unfortunately. So what I did is I held it, and well, I kind of suffocated it, and it felt terrible. And from that early age, I must have been maybe probably 10 or less. So from that early age, I realized that there's something inherently wrong with, the culture I grew up in. This was normal, but then something inside me told me it's wrong. And then growing up, as I grew up, I ate meat because of society, and my body would tell me once in a while, whenever I ate meat, oftentimes I'd get heartburn. But because everybody else is doing it, I did it. And then when I was about 18 years old, I had a crisis of sorts where, I was angry at God. I was angry at many things because I didn't understand the world. Then shortly after, I made a prayer. I prayed and requested, if there's a God out there, if there's a bigger truth, I want to know it. And then shortly after that, very soon after, I first of all started meditating. A friend introduced me to meditation. And when I went for the meditation classes, they also introduced concepts like karma, reincarnation, and the benefits of being vegetarian, at least at the minimum. And I was blown away that for 18, 19 years of my life, probably 18 years, I had gone blindly doing things just because everybody else did it. And then all of a sudden, it's like it hit my face, like eating meat. It's really crazy if you think about it. Animals are beings just like us, and what gives us the right to kill another animal and consume it? And this is exactly the same way that probably people end up doing really bad things because everybody else is doing them. So yeah, I was really shocked by how blind I had been. So I started on this journey. I meditated. I started going plant-based, and it was really difficult because I was in college, just starting college, and so the food was provided to us, so and I barely had any money. We were being fed, and oftentimes the food would come with meat, So, many times I actually either ate, I'd try to eat around the meat. So, I'd go hungry sometimes, oftentimes. Also, the culture we grew up, fast food in Kenya is very rampant, and oftentimes people get chips, and finding vegan veggie options was really difficult. So for about 2 years of my life, I kind of struggled, on this plant-based path. Like most of the other panelists here, I had to do it alone. So unfortunately, I think about maybe 2 years in, I actually fell sick because I wasn't eating properly. So I actually fell sick and I had to go to hospital, and then they put me on supplements. And then after then is when I realized, what? Yeah, there's tremendous merits to actually being plant-based, but it has to be done responsibly. So since then, I educated myself. I started having spirulina and chia seeds. Those became, very often meals for me, frequent meals for me, for myself. And yeah, since then, I've kind of been on this plant-based diet. And what I've noticed is the more, I eat plant-based, the stronger my meditation gets. So I've done many meditation retreats, and oftentimes, I have to be there and, stay plant-based. And I noticed that the food we eat actually, they say we are what we eat. The food we eat some of it goes out as waste, but a lot of it actually stays in our bodies. And very similar to Sahil's experience, I had one particular retreat where possibly for a few days, every time I'd meditate, I'd see gruesome images, like you said, bones and blood. That happened to me. The moment I sit down, horror movie, and yeah, it's I feel like it was a purification of sorts, but it also empathized me, or sensitized me to just how cruel humans as a collective are treating animals. There's many movies out there now that actually show what's happening in slaughterhouses and whatnot, and it's really, really unfortunate. One of the key pillars of meditation is compassion, and if you want to be a compassionate human being, you can't actually put yourself to a position where you eat another being that's been killed. And the other reason actually I want to stay plant-based is one of my precepts is to not take something that's not offered, to steal, basically. Mm-hmm. And every time we eat, meat, I don't think those animals gave their lives. They didn't say, "Oh, I want to be killed." So that was taken away from them. That was stolen. So, yeah, I think being plant-based, is really in line with our highest spiritual goals. So yeah, as Pari mentioned, I'm now in a place where I'm working with a few other people to build a community that's centered around conscious living. Actually, one of the core pillars is, eating compassionately, eating responsibly. There are many benefits to a plant-based diet, not just the health benefits, not just the spiritual benefits. It's good for the planet. It's good for society. Actually, it is proven now that, well, maybe not proven, but there's more evidence coming up that cultures that, have a very strong vegetarian or vegan lifestyle, there's more harmony and compassion around it. There's some studies going on. If you look online, you'll find them. And yeah, so I'm really excited to be part of this panel. Also, I am my body, as I've become more plant-based, my body also rejects dairy. Now I'm lactose intolerant as well. I'm also allergic to honey in a sense. So it's like, my body is really telling me, hey, just purify yourself by avoiding eating very gross foods. And also by extension, I think that the path of the spiritual path is actually a path of purification. Ideally, we get to a place where we can actually live off prana, and you don't even have to consume, because the act of consuming, usually, oftentimes, if you're not very careful, there's greed or an attachment to eating. So I guess, yeah, what we eat can help us evolve. So yeah, let's be more responsible. I'm looking forward to participating in the question and answers. And yeah, thank you so much for having me. That's my journey in a nutshell. Yeah.
Wow, thank you, Eddie. That was amazing.
Thank you, Eddie.
All that beautiful experience, and I'm so happy to also know that you had similar experience in your journey. So I was not the only person who experiences this. So Amazing. We're also inspired listening to all your journeys. It's so unique in their own nature, but yet eventually it comes down to the same truth that it's important to move into a more compassionate diet. It's very important to move into a more natural diet and a whole food diet. So, it was amazing to know all the journey. And, now we can just get into simple questions where we would love to bring in, and, with these questions, we would love to help other people who are listeners, who are listening to this, maybe who've not turned vegetarian yet, can try being a vegetarian or turn into a vegan also. So, in your journey, in all your journeys, wherever you were, and in any time, what were the key challenges that you faced when you were turning into a vegetarian, and how you overcame it? So, whatever that you can share in your field, in your journey, I feel that can really help more people to tackle these uh, issues if it comes into there. So, what were your challenges in your journey of turning into a vegetarian or a vegan, and how did you tackle them? How did you overcome them? So we can do a quick pointers, this and this, yeah. So I guess we can start with anybody. Yeah, go ahead, Julia.
I can start. I definitely think that being with family or being with friends who are not vegetarian or vegan and don't understand the health benefits, the ecological benefits, the benefits to compassion. It's difficult when you're starting something new. They're seeing you in a new way as a new person, behaving differently. And so they have questions and they tease you and they question the science and they don't believe it. But for me to overcome those things, my education, and it wasn't an enormous education, it's just a 3-month certificate through Cornell University online, but having that education from a university that both my father graduated from and my grandfather graduated from, there was no questioning it. So I was fully confident in the information that I had at that time, even though I wasn't yet an expert at the doing it yet. I was still fumbling my way through. But so I really think believing in the science can help you overcome any doubts from other people.
Wow. That's truly a great challenge. I mean, people face, if their closed ones are not in with, is not with the flow of this change, it can get a little difficult. But as you said, you stick with the science. But what about you, Sarah? How was it for you? How did you manage this?
One of the biggest challenges I get being Muslim is how can you be vegan? We need meat to survive. They have a lot of holidays that involve, sacrificing a lamb or a goat. And, I did a lot of studying on this topic. I researched many books, and it's been many years now, and I'm, gathering all this information to one day write my own book. And part of the vegan Muslim community that I helped to build was about educating, many religions. It's again, and Eddie mentioned it, ahimsa, compassion, having, no harm against any creature, human or animal. And if you go back to, the 10 Commandments and the three religions in the world that believe thou shalt not kill. So kill anything, no animals, no bugs, no humans, and yourself. So, there are many stories that I grew up listening to, these Quran stories about somebody who got to go to heaven because they gave some water to a thirsty dog in the middle of the desert. They filled up their shoe with water and they showed mercy to this dog, so Allah showed mercy to them. Or a woman who went to hell for locking up a cat in a closet or a room, and the cat died because it had no access to food and water. And so we keep hearing these stories about being compassionate to animals, be merciful to animals, and you'll be shown mercy. And even, the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, he was also mostly vegetarian. And there are many stories about his own compassion to animals. And, there were, in his home, they did not see smoke coming from the chimney for like 3 months. And they're like, did you not cook your food? What did you eat? He only survived off of dates and water for many times of the year. And the thing is, and the way people used to eat back then, meat was a luxury, and it was only for special occasions or only for the rich people. And it's not like the way we eat now, or most people that eat meat at every meal 3 times a day. Your bodies aren't meant to support that kind of diet and lifestyle, and you're harming yourself, you're poisoning yourself literally with too much toxins from these animals. And the way that they were raised, the way that they were slaughtered, the way that they were consumed, all of it. And so there's a lot of other very specific guidelines when it comes to halal food, and people don't follow it, and I think those guidelines were made strict to prevent people from eating meat too much. So, there's rules regarding zabiha, which is like the way they slaughter the animals, and none of that is followed. Even at like halal butchers, right? None of that is ever followed, because the animals are often, the rules are, they're not supposed to be killed too young. And we know with factory farming, they give them hormones to make them bigger, faster. And you're actually eating animals that are still technically babies. They're only like 2 or 3 months old. So there's that. There's, they're not supposed to live in filth. They're supposed to have like a clean environment. And again, that never happens because they try to cram as many animals as possible in a small area. And so they get sick, and they get, like Julia was talking about, the mad cow and even bird flu and like all these horrible diseases that came from animal agriculture, even COVID, right? So another thing is you're not supposed to let the animal see the knife, or let them see blood, or let them see each other being killed. That never happens either, because they all gather in the middle of the street, and people slaughtering the animals in the open in front of the other animals. And basically, all of these things, I think, make the food forbidden. They make the food tainted in a way that it's like not going to be good for you. And then you see later on there are health conditions that developed from eating this tainted food that was not raised in a proper way, that was not killed in a proper way. And and then again, I think Dr. Miriam, you were talking about the butcher with the meat hanging there, and God knows how many days that meat has hang there and it's rotted already, and they add all sorts of things to make it look fresh, which is totally false. And it's like, where are people eating this? It's terrible. There's nothing you can do with a whole food plant-based diet. What you're eating. It's a whole fruit or vegetable, and it's healthier for you, and that's what your body needs. It's what your body wants. And I just love that. When I'm making food, I try to include as many colors as possible and have like a rainbow plate of different nutrients and vitamins, and make the plate beautiful, because look at all the gifts that we've been given from things that grow on the earth that are so natural. We're supposed to eat those things, being attracted to colorful things. So just trying to remind people. Oh, and my favorite thing, the last point is, when people ask me, how can you be vegan and Muslim? If you ever read the Quran, they mention all the fruits and vegetables that are available in heaven. And it's not mentioned ever, like what, meat products are going to be given to the people in heaven. So, if you eat like the Sunnah diet, Sunnah is like the days and the ways that the practices of the Prophet and his people, and the Sunnah diet or the Jannah diet, what are the foods that are available in heaven? It's all fruits and vegetables, it's all plant-based. So, I like to look at those and focus on those.
So yeah, it's always good to turn into the heavens diet right now, and not wait to move out of the body to start practicing the heavens diet. So that's amazing,
Yeah.
Sarah, I guess. Yeah. So amazing, Sarah. That's truly a challenge. Yeah. Go
Yeah,
ahead, Miriam.
I'd like to share, and particularly with Sarah, because I was born in the Jewish tradition, which I don't follow that much now, but I have a colleague who actually started off as a math professor, and he is a very strong vegan advocate. He's following Judaism in a very traditional way, and he makes the case that a vegan vegetarian diet is much more compatible with the real values of the religion of looking after your body, looking after the planet, kindness, and so on. And he's written and I think there are probably many, many parallels between Jewish religion and Islam. I'm sure of it, you know, and that in the Garden of Eden, they ate right from the trees. They didn't even have grains. They just you know, then meat came in according to the Bible much later, after the flood, after the story of the flood. But I just wanted to share, there's this book that he's written called Vegan Revolution, which you might want to look at, because you might find parallels there with the approach. And I also wanted to share that I'm living in Israel, and in Tel Aviv. Tel Aviv has got apparently the biggest proportion of vegans in the population of anywhere. And in Israel, you know, as you know, there's a very significant Muslim minority in Israel. And I am not personally aware of the vegan message coming into the Muslim population in Israel. So it's very, very, very nice to know that it's happening in Egypt. It's very, very nice to know that. And I think that this is something that really can bring people together, you know, no matter what other differences of opinion they may have. This is a really, really wonderful way for people to come together.
Mhm.
So I'm
Absolutely. You
very
know,
happy to see you here.
thank you so much. You know, I love the many members in our group are living in Israel, and they post about you know, recipes or restaurants that I think people in Egypt are getting inspired from. But I have to give a shout out. We have very famous Egyptian vegans that are taking over the world right now. So, you know, I think the most famous one is Bassem Youssef, who was very prevalent during the Egyptian Revolution. Now he's living in America, and he had a program on YouTube called Plant B, and
Mm-hmm.
he's a medical doctor, and he basically wanted to educate people in the Middle East about everything plant-based diet. So Plant B, so his B is for Bassem, his name, and it talked. You know, they're very funny, they're cute. He's a comedian, so he has, you know, about every topic, about B12, about calcium, about
Mm-hmm.
protein, about iron. It's in Arabic, which is amazing. So after he, you know, released this program, our group grew exponentially. We got like 5,000 new members in 1 month. And
Wow.
what I'm
Yeah.
reading, yeah, amazing. So, you know, he's been a huge influence on growing plant-based diets in a healthy way in the Middle East, and especially in Egypt. So what I loved also is, you know, when I was in Egypt, in having people do something better for themselves during Ramadan, because usually, so it's like 30 days of fasting, and, you know, from sunrise to sunset, people are not eating or drinking anything. And but at night, full on feasts, and they're eating garbage, and they're eating meat, and just a big old, you know, terrible thing to shock your body with. And we were introducing, okay, well, if you want to try out being vegetarian, trying vegan, you know, do that during Ramadan. So at night, when you can eat and your body is going to absorb everything that you put into it, because it's fasting all day, why don't you put something good into it? And here are some recipes for Ramadan. So since I'm already vegan, usually I go raw vegan during Ramadan. And so, and I have another group called like Ramadan, so RAWMADAN. So that's like my time to do my raw vegan detox. And especially in the summers when it's hot, it's fantastic, because you're just eating fruits and lots of healthy, juicy, you know, things that like your body wants to rehydrate itself after you've been without drinking any liquids all day. So, and you know, we're making it work, and we're taking care of our bodies, and we're learning more about better ways to do things. So, and I love that people are teaching each other.
That's great. Well, we should get together one time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Sure, that's the whole motive. So Yeah, and Miriam, being in the doctor, being with the doctors, being in the medical industry, I'm sure you must have faced a lot of challenges yourself.
Many
So could you share some?
challenges.
Yeah. So
Many
how did you?
challenges. I think
Mhm.
one of the big challenges is that the medical community is very conservative as a whole. And if you use the word vegetarian and particularly vegan, then it's regarded as something that is like, from the world of the hippies or from, these fringy kind of things. And it tends to, provoke I would say, defensive reaction on the part of the medical colleagues. And I have a lot of medical colleagues. And so, now there are the like similar to the Cornell program that Julia mentioned, which I also did. There is now a lot more information out there. If you read any guideline to do with any, particularly cardiovascular disease or diabetes, it does say, limit cholesterol. So what does that mean? It means you don't eat meat, right? But they won't say that in the guidelines. They say limit saturated fat. Saturated fat is almost only in animal products, but they won't say that in the guidelines. Or they say, eat more fruits and vegetables. So depending who I'm talking to, I tend to avoid using the word vegan sometimes because the vegan word and vegetarian refers to what you're not eating. It says, oh, I'm not eating, animal products. But I prefer the term whole food plant-based because this is talking about not only what you're avoiding, but that the basis of the diet is the whole plants, the vegetables, the fruits, the legumes, the grains, some nuts and seeds. And also the other kind of branch that really needs to be minimized is the highly processed foods, the sugars, the refined oils, the highly refined flour um, products, which are, easy to produce on a mass scale. They last forever because they're completely dead. And, some people have, described them as food-like substances or something like that. It's not really food. But I think part of the conservatism of the medical profession as a whole is very challenging. And I'm now part of some physician groups. There's a plant-based health professionals group in the UK that I'm part of. I've contributed a lecture to an online course in the UK that's very similar to the eCornell course. It's at Winchester University plant-based nutrition course, and there are a lot more resources. But as they say, you can bring a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. And my solution to that now, at a late state in my career, is that I have decided to work not within the system, but to work independently, so that the people who come to me will be the people who are, motivated to get guidance on what I have to give. So that's one of the challenges. And the other challenge here, actually, where I am in Israel, where there are so many vegans, but they are, because most of them have come to it through the ethical vegan kind of approach, they don't really understand, and I think it's partly because of being young. Usually they don't understand that vegan junk food is really bad news. And I mean, every there's so much vegan junk food in Tel Aviv. You know, a new restaurant opens up and it's a vegan French fries and all kinds of, you know, mayonnaise and really rubbish. And so that's also challenging because the vegans, many of the young, ethically motivated vegans assume that that their diet is healthy because it's vegan, but that is not really the case. And that's why, you know, using the term whole food plant-based kind of does address both of those groups, but it is, you know, it is challenging. Sometimes it's a little bit discouraging, and that's why it's so nice to meet people who are kind of on the same page, you know. So
Wow. Thank you, Miriam, for being consistent and being there, no
yes,
matter how challenging it gets.
yeah, there's another challenge, I think, also in the States, that veganism, in quotes, or even whole food plant-based, has this, people think it's only for privileged people and only for, you know, maybe only for like people who are wealthy, people who are not in the minority groups, and so on. But this is starting to change a little bit. But I think emphasizing, you know, the whole food plant-based, actually without gimmicks. You don't need a special juicer. You don't need, you know, you just need like a cutting board and a knife and a few pots and pans. That's all you actually need. Maybe a pressure cooker, you know. But this image of it being elitist, where it's actually the most basic food that's going to save people money, it's going to protect their health, they'll need fewer medicines, they'll be able to work and function. So this is also, you know, it's also kind of challenging in terms of image.
Yeah, you know, because I see a lot of these, you know, these days. I mean, they're making everything look like vegan. They're making vegan steaks, which looks exactly like a steak, but they're vegan. So I mean, why do we
I
need to
think
make things like that?
it's a transitional kind of thing, you know. It's
Yeah,
for
maybe
people
it's the middle path. Yeah, for all of them.
who feel a bit bad about eating meat, but they like how it tastes.
Yeah,
You know,
so that's I guess,
and
yeah, even that's a
but
positive.
personally, myself, I wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole, but I can understand why some people might want to use it sometimes. Yeah.
Exactly. Thank you. So Eddie, what's been your challenge in this journey, and how did you tackle it?
What's been your challenge in this journey, and how did you tackle it? Well, yeah, my biggest challenge, I think, has always been the social component. So basically, you know, when I actually announced that I'm vegan, and well, I'm done with meat, basically. Every time I went home to Christmas, because I lived alone, so that wasn't much of a problem. But every time I went to family or friends, you know, they'd always brandish a steak and be like, "Hey, look, it's so juicy," you know, and they're like, "You're missing out." And oftentimes, especially, you know, during festivities, there'd be meat, and nobody really, you know, thinks about the veggies, or maybe it's a very small side dish. And the biggest one usually was when I went home and my mom would be like, "Oh, I made this with so much love and it's beef," even after I told her, you know, that I don't want to eat meat. And she'd be like, "Oh, I made it with so much love," you know. And for a while, you know, I actually gave in many times. I'd be like, "Okay, fine, mom, I'll eat it." But then later I realized, you know, if somebody actually came and, you know, oblivious, without knowing, actually made poison. Let's say you're allergic to something and they gave it to you and they're like, "Oh, I made it with so much love." You wouldn't eat it because you die. And in a nutshell, you know, I think actually it's a similar analogy, you know. So now I think, you know, if somebody does that to me, I'll be like, "Oh, no, it's no, thank you, it's not good for me." So yeah, so that for a long time was a big challenge. The other one was, for a long time, you know, I was alone. So I joined a couple of Facebook groups, plant-based, you know, plant-based diet groups. And, you know, usually it's, you know, the groups are full of people from abroad, other countries. Now, you know, over the last couple of years, there have been many more Kenyan groups, and I'm in, you know, I'm in a few WhatsApp and a few Facebook groups, you know, around plant-based diets. So I'm really glad to see that more people in my country are actually embracing this idea. Yeah, but for a long time, especially because I started when I was about 19. So for about 5 years, you know, I was just wallowing in the dark, trying to figure my way around. So that was a big challenge. Also because I didn't have access to or maybe I wasn't motivated enough to actually study and learn. I thought I could wing it, so I ate a lot of junk, plant-based food, like previous speaker just mentioned. So yeah, that was a big challenge, and like I mentioned before, it affected me. So and now actually, on the flip side, because I've done so much research and I continue to actually see what's out there, I'm very excited and motivated to help more people actually learn about very simple, dietary options. Because we live in Kenya, everybody, maybe not everybody, but there's many, many gardens and farms. Um, Kenyans, we grew up as farmers. So unfortunately, we started growing a lot of crops for selling production. So tea, coffee, basically cash crops. But now I think there's a big trend where farmers in Kenya are actually going back to growing subsistence food. Because even in cities now, you find people have small gardens and they want to grow food that they can actually eat. Because they've noticed the food we find out there, half of it, okay, first of all, the plant-based options are very few. So there wasn't enough knowledge. So people grew very few variety of crops, but now that's changing. And also what happened in many gardens and farm spaces in Kenya is farmers would actually have basically they'd have a big farm where they grew maybe potatoes for sale, and then they'd have a small farm just for their family. And what they do is they put pesticides and herbicides in their, produce that they'd sell, and then the little bit that they've left for themselves, they would only use natural organic fertilizers or pesticides. And people are learning this, so they're realizing even the plants that we buy, the potatoes, the carrots, the tomatoes, a lot of them have pesticides now. So, there's a trend now that people are actually, they're more alert to what's happening. So this is helping me now. But back in the day when I started, that wasn't there. Also, the other thing is some social stigma. African, Black African Kenyans, we don't grow up vegan. So people who didn't understand, they'll ask me, are you Indian or are you, it's not our thing, but now it's changing. So it's warming up. There's a lot of movements around here, and a lot of people who are actually discarding meat just for the health reasons. So yeah.
Yes, that's nice, Eddie. I'm so glad to hear that. And yes, I guess every culture is now adopting this, no matter where they are geographically or from their culture. I feel every culture has now brought it up in their and I feel if you look into the books of every culture, compassion is common. I don't think any culture would say that we should not be compassionate. So no matter what they write, compassion is always there. Love is always there. So if not for anything else, but for the sake of compassion, for the sake of love, we must respect the animals. We must respect and not treat them as food. So with that, I feel we are moving to the last hours of the discussion. So very quickly, we would love to hear you guys share finally why, to tell the viewers, in one line or one statement from you as to why they should turn vegetarian and why they should become vegan. So, go ahead, shoot your bullets.
For me, it's to break free of the boundaries that eating animals and eating junk food and not focusing on compassion create in your system. They create disharmony in your emotions, in your mental state, in your physical state. And so to break free of those limitations and live with incredible vitality and health and compassion for the world, meditation and a whole food plant-based diet, and being out and connecting to this earth. Thank you.
Profound. Miriam?
Well, there are so many benefits to adopting a whole food and plant-based diet, which is free of animal products, free of ultra-processed foods, or even going in that direction. And there are enormous benefits for health, enormous benefits for the planet, enormous benefits for one's own connection with oneself, because when one is aware of how that piece of meat actually got onto one's plate, in order to eat that, I think one has to be somehow cut off from one's natural compassion. And so, you know, I would encourage people who are interested in this to read. There are so many good resources, whichever direction inspires you the most, whether it's the ethical direction, the planetary direction, the health direction. Each one can be a way to connect with this subject, and I don't see any downsides. You know, it's only beneficial. So. You're muted, Sahil.
Yeah, thank you, Miriam. That was amazing. So, Eddie, would you like to share anything?
Eddie, would you like to share anything?
Well, I guess a big motivation for me is the spiritual aspect of it. And, you know, I do believe in karma. And for instance, if somebody murdered someone and stole their car, and then one person, well, a person knowingly that this is what happened, actually went ahead and bought that car, you know, you're taking part in this crime, right? You're partaking in this thing that's really evil. And in the same way, I feel like, you know, for animals to die, you know, that's a crime. And for people to knowingly then consume meat, you're attaching yourself to this terrible act, you know, and I feel like there's a karmic component to it. So why would anyone want that burden to themselves, you know? And also, and I'm convinced from my meditation that reincarnation is real. I've had experiences that have shown me that, you know, we've had, all of us on this journey, we've been here many times before in different forms and shapes. And in a way, you know, it's easy, or it's actually possible that we've come in shapes that are different from, you know, the human form. And so when we eat, you know, when you eat our animal friend, it's like, this may come out really strongly, but it's almost like we're eating our relatives, because we're all related, because we've all been on this journey for so long. So, yeah, that might be a bit strong, but you know what? Yeah, let's try to live as pure as we can and as compassionately as we can. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Eddie, for this another approach.
Thank you, Eddie, for this another approach, another angle.
Idea. Thank you. So go ahead, Sarah. Love to hear from you.
Absolutely.
To all the Muslim community out there, to all the people you want to share out, you know, go ahead, give your take to them.
I think people need to really take a look at their lives, their environments, their health, and making any small changes, whether it's just choosing no dairy, choosing no eggs, choosing no mammals, and you know, slowly transitioning if they can feel comfortable enough. Start being vegetarian if that works. Start being vegan. You know, I know a lot of people who go cold turkey, you know, and overnight just decide they're not going to eat any meat or dairy ever again. Whatever works for you, do it for the animals, do it for the environment, do it for your health. And, you know, I have to say that, like, yeah, definitely what Eddie said, like, animals have souls. Like Yogi, he definitely teaches me a lot. And he reminds me to, you know, take care of the earth for the future. And any small change does make a difference. You know, it started with just me, and now we have, you know, thousands and thousands of members in Egypt, in a place where everyone said you can't be vegan. And I'm like, all right, well, they say, like, you know, one person can't change the world, but I think that's I've disproven that. And if anything, I rescued him, so I totally changed his world. I saved his life from living out in the streets and all of that. And that's why I was kind of like, whoa, he's sitting on my lap now. What's this? Because as a street cat, they don't like to be cuddly usually. So I think any small changes you can make makes a huge difference.
Yes, it does. I mean, because of all the changes that you've made in your own areas, as we are here together, and everything counts. One life saved is everything that matters. And I'm sure because of all our effort, we were able to change so many people's life. So let's keep going on it. So I was just discussing with my team, and since they're liking the panel discussion so much, they've given us 20 more minutes to expand and keep discussing. And I really wanted time because we have an amazing question from Ashwin. And if you guys are in for it, I would love to bring that question. And if you want to answer, all right. Julia is excited. I'm happy. All right. So it's a very good question where I saw, so about the difference between, so Ashwin wants to know the difference between eating animals and eating animal products. How are they different and how can we differentiate from them? And are both of them harmful equally? What about it? Sure,
Yes.
Go ahead, Julia.
Yes, both are equally harmful. So in the United States, we differentiate between the term vegetarian and vegan. And vegan means that you don't consume anything that started out as an animal. And vegetarian has a lot of nuances to it. In the United States, mostly it means that people still eat milk products. So products that came from cow's milk, sheep's milk, goat's milk. And sometimes it means that they also eat eggs. So the destructive forces to your physical, emotional, and spiritual health are the same whether you're eating meat, which might be what you're talking about when you say eating animals, or whether you're eating something like a product that came from an animal, which might be eggs or products that are made from milk. It's all just as destructive. And if you look at the effects to the earth, again, it's just as destructive. And if you look at the effects to the suffering of the animals, it's just as destructive. So I'll just give you a quick example. Let's take milk products. So they come from an animal, but you're not eating meat. The milk industry uses the female cows. So the female cows have about a span of 5 years where they give birth 2 to 4 times. After they give birth, they produce milk. So you're then consuming that milk or products made from that milk. The infants from the mothers that just gave birth are immediately taken from the mothers, and they can become veal meat. They can grow up to be adult meat, or they can be bulls to reproduce. But eventually, when the bulls are done reproducing, they become meat. And eventually, after the 5 years of the female cows giving birth and producing milk, they become meat. So in every one of those situations, even though you were just consuming the milk, the product of the cows, every single one of the cows in the industry then eventually becomes meat. And the destruction to the earth, which is the use of the land, the deforestation, the desertification of the soil into dirt, the water crisis that we're coming up upon, is the same whether these animals are raised for meat or whether these animals are raised to produce milk products.
That's pretty bad. That's pretty equally bad. All right. So anybody else would like to add to that question?
Yeah, I would like to add something that animal products, so-called, like, you know, eggs, milk, cheese, and so on, because they contain saturated fat and cholesterol, for example, you know, the same as meat and chicken and all these other things. So the effect on cardiovascular health, for example, is not going to be any better. You know, if you limit yourself to consuming dairy products and eggs, you know, it's not really necessarily going to be much better than if you're also consuming, than if you were consuming meat and steaks and things. There are some things with meat as such in the cooking methods, for example, when the meat is grilled or when meat is preserved into sausages and so on, which is a treatment that's not usually given to eggs and milk products. So those grilled and preserved meats, we now know that they are really very carcinogenic, and it's a bad idea to eat them at all. I think for, you know, today we're looking at, in most parts of the world, this factory farming, which is a really terrible industry. But I think, you know, if we were looking at traditional, say, country or village lifestyle, where you had a few chickens in your backyard, or you had a cow that you, or a goat that you milked and was sort of part of the family, you know, I'm not saying it was more healthy, but there was not this feeling of overt violence on the huge scale. And, you know, if people are living in a rural place, in a village where they depend on these kinds of things, I think, you know, in our kind of privileged first world mentality, you know, I don't think that's the worst of it. I think the worst of it, you know, if someone wants to start to change, really try to take out the preserved meats, the grilled meats, the meats full stop, and then maybe reassess. Not everybody is ready to make a 180-degree change right away, you know, as Sarah was saying. But I think if this subject interests people, if this take, you know, one day a week, or decide one meal per day. Okay, breakfast, I'm going to be, you know, vegetarian or vegan, or meatless Mondays, or for example, and then explore, see what the options are, think about the benefits, you know, not only for oneself, not only for the planet right now, but for the planet in the future, for the next generations, for the, you know, the consequences of severe climate change that cause droughts and famines and so on. Learn how the things are really interconnected, you know, and then reassess.
I just want to thank these awesome answers. Julia, thank you so much for talking about the dairy industry. And I know Eddie and I are both talked about being lactose intolerant, and I love people say, well, you know, you're not a baby cow. Milk is for baby cows. It's not your milk, it's not your mother. So your body naturally grows out of needing milk after different years, and they have to do so many things to milk in order for people to consume it, pasteurize it, and make it into different cheese and things like that. And not a lot of people drink raw milk anymore. So, you know, the process of getting a cow pregnant is horrendous. You know, people knew the cows and animals, like they can't give their consent to be pregnant, and just, and a lot of male calves get killed, male chicks get killed, even though people who are vegetarian, they think, well, I'm not eating meat, like Julia said, again, animals are still dying. So, and I loved Dr. Miriam, you gave many really great examples. And if people want more information to just get started, I have to shout out, Forks Over Knives, the documentary, and they have What the Health and now The Game Changers. And I'm also working on another documentary called Planet Vegan. I'm the production counsel as a lawyer for that film that's going to come out in a couple of years, and I'm really excited. It's going to be another one like Game Changers. And again, I think that animal products are not just food. We're talking leather or fur or feathers or silk. And if people are vegan in the ethical sense, in the spiritual sense, they're not consuming, they're not buying, they're not using any type of animal product. And, people can take their stance as strict or as loosely as they want to. That's my personal choice. I've lived as an ethical vegan for many years now, and I don't need it. So I encourage everyone to study and discover for themselves what works best.
I have I have a slide with a list of some resources that if I can share my screen, maybe people will want to, take a picture of the screenshot. If that would be useful, I can go ahead and share that.
Like 1 or 2 slides, because we have
just one slide for 5 seconds. People can, take a screenshot.
I guess we can do it. Let's
Yeah.
do it.
Okay. Let me see if I can get it. Where is it? Okay.
So I guess it was amazing from listening from everyone. Yeah, there you go.
Oh, you're muted.
Yeah, you just if you take a screenshot of that, there are many resources. I've listed some of the best ones where professionals can learn. And there are a lot of other resources that are books and things that I have a resource section on my website that people may find useful. So, okay.
Thank you. That was pretty quick and nice. So thank you, Miriam. And thank you to all the beautiful panelists for being so beautifully amazing in sharing your journey and inspiring us in such intrinsic detail about turning into a vegan. I still have to become a vegan, and I guess I'm a little more inspired today by listening to Julia and Sarah. I feel it's a little different in India because we have our cows, we have our dairy from we know where it's coming from. We have, but nonetheless, be it leather, be it other products that we get from the animals, I'm sure we can move towards a non-animal product also in consumerism. So thank you to all these beautiful panelists. I love you all. It's been amazing, and I would love to invite Buddy back into the panel so that she can just end this discussion.
Thank you, Miriam. It was such a wonderful to hear from you. Coming from a professional such as yourself really creates a huge impact, because in a country like India, where I come from, anything the doctor says is the word of God.
Maybe I should move to there.
Whatever the doctor prescribes, people blindly take it.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the thing that we as an organization are trying to spread the awareness, that start thinking for yourself, start reading, do research for yourself, and understand what is good for you. And thank you so much for coming in and really shedding some light on so many different aspects. And even from them, I know many medical professionals who are in my family and also in my friend circle who really do not have such breadth of information themselves. And I live in Maryland, closer to DC, and I know that in Washington DC, apparently there's a yearly conference that happens for physicians to teach about.
Physicians Committee of Responsible Medicine,
Yes.
Neil Barnard. Yeah, I know
Yeah,
him.
I've learned that, and then they are teaching physicians about plant-based food.
Absolutely, yeah.
So that was interesting for me to learn. And I myself switched to vegan. I was a vegetarian all my life. I switched to vegan about 2 years back, and my thyroid completely gone away. I used to take Synthroid every day. And completely gone. No thyroid, nothing. I feel so energetic. I lost 10 pounds, 15 pounds. It's just amazing. It transformed my life. So and also, as you mentioned, one thing I really loved what you mentioned was vegan vegetarianism are the words that says what you can't eat. And that's why in PSSM we have adopted the word plant-based food as well.
Yeah.
Because it does not has any religious programming into those words. So that's why we have changed the languaging now in all our scriptures, and our website is now it's all plant-based, no vegetarian, no vegan. So thank you so much for coming in, and we would love to have a session from you, more and more sessions coming from you to teach on the subject. We would love to collaborate with you on that, and we will be in touch with you on that. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you very much. I will do my best,
Yes. Sarah, thank you so much for coming in. I'm amazed to hear you. I'm amazed about coming from a Muslim background and talking about this is, oh my goodness, it's powerful. Just that is so powerful. And I want to take you to the world, to the whole world, and show you like, oh my goodness, listen to her. This is amazing. This is amazing. Thank you so much for coming in. And I have to thank Madhu for getting you on board. Thank you, Madhu, if you're listening, for connecting to these wonderful masters. So thank you so much. And I know we will be in touch again. We will do more events, more sessions together, because people need to hear from you. People need to.
Thanks to Sahil, our amazing host. This was a great panel, and all the questions, all the people who asked in the chat. Appreciate everyone for being here, and let's stay in touch online. Let's find each other on Facebook and support each other.
Yes, we will put all the links of each and every panel on our website so people can connect with you. And Julia, my dear friend, I am so happy to have you here, to see you here finally. I've been trying to get you since last 2 years, and finally it happened. I am so happy, and thank you so much for just accepting our invitation and saying yes.
You're very welcome. It has been an amazing pleasure, and what an absolutely fantastic meet that you have created. Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you. And we want to see you more and more and more. We are getting so many messages that this panel has been absolutely a delight to watch, and everybody want to see you more. So we would want you more.
Excellent. Thank you.
Edgar Kimati, thank you so much, Edgar. And I want to announce today to all the PSSM masters that Edgar is our taking PSSM into Africa, teaching meditation, and probably bringing pyramids into Africa. That's our next step. And I would like to take the privilege and announce that we are planning a Digital Meditation Summit Africa next as our next event.
Yeah, I'm so privileged, so excited, and this is a labor of love. It's a real gift to be able to work with you and bring meditation to more people out there. So thank you so much for doing this with me. Yeah.
Yes, thank you, Edgar. Thank you, everyone. We had such a wonderful time with you. And Sahil, you have been amazing. Oh my goodness. Everybody's like, Sahil is really doing a great job. I'm so glad. And I know we are going to do much more work together. Thank you for coming in.
It was equally a pleasure to learn. It was I'm so happy to be in this side. and so that I can learn so much from these beautiful masters and, be inspired in my own way. And I'm so happy. Thank you, Pali, for letting me do this. I'm glad. I'm sure we'll do a lot of things. So thank you.